From experimenting with Ivon Hitchens' patchwork colors to sketching in Starkville to treasure hunting in the largest antique mall in Tennessee, this week is full of inspiration. Last week we unboxed this watercolor set, and I thought we would swatch it, but not in a traditional manner. I want to take a look at Ivon Hitchens' paintings and see if I can be inspired by his works. And I have this flower recipe book that I'm going to get some inspiration from. That's beautiful too. So I think I'm going to be inspired by this painting, and I'm only going to bring out a few paintbrushes. I'm going to use this Velvet Touch, and it's large, but I think it would help me just think in patches of colors and not get too worked up in details. So this is pretty much all I'm going to use. I'm going to give my watercolors a little bath and activate them. So this is my first time using this palette, so these colors are going to be a surprise to me as well. So I'm just going to start off by just doing a patch of color like he did. And he would form his, his flowers with his brush strokes. And I'm going to leave space. I'm not going to touch my colors. He always left space between his subject matter. Let's try a different color green. That's bright. All right, sorry for the interruption, but I received this order after I was already finished with the swatching video, but I thought you would enjoy seeing this book. I'm pretty excited about this. I haven't looked through this yet, so I'm looking forward to sitting down with just some coffee and kind of going through all of his works. See, there's a good example of his patchwork style. That's called the Blue Garden Yellow Door. Okay, so see, yellow door. At first when I looked at this, I was thinking that was a bowl of lemons. And that says poppies. South Coast. So this book looks like it's arranged by dates of his work. And those are pretty colors. Dark and light trees. Figure work. The balcony. There's the fish. Anyway, I just thought you would be interested to see some of his work. I'm just so inspired by the looseness and just the separation of color, and how these colors almost seem to like bounce off each other. Even the way he's formed these heads are just a block of color. Like, if I don't know if you would recognize that as a head by itself, but in the context where you can kind of see that's a shirt, it works. It kind of reminds me of the mud, is it called Mudhead era? So I look forward to going through this book and being inspired by his work, and maybe it'll help me kind of loosen up my own work. See, I love that little patch. Like, what is that? Is that a tablecloth maybe? Flowers in a white bowl. Okay, back to my swatching. It is a hard exercise to not touch the other colors and really think of everything as a patchwork. And then there's roses back here. I don't even know if they're roses, you know, I never can identify flowers. They're more orange in this picture, but I wanted to see what the pink looked like. I'm gonna try to put this vase in. So it's got a strong edge here. And change my color, and then it goes. And then it's really dark on this side. And then it bends. To a little bit of a lighter blue here. And then it's really light where the sun or the light is reflecting right here. This might be a good exercise to do with acrylics. Then you could really make things blocky. Okay, and then orange flower here. And it almost looks like fall leaves coming off the side. And there's, looks like maybe a rose here. I say everything's a rose. I don't know what it is. And then I'm gonna do a darker center, just to, it's not even the center, it's just where it curves around, just to indicate the shape. Then I think I'm gonna give a little center to this flower. And I'm gonna see what this green looks like and put a leaf. Oh, that's a nice color. Oh, I think I use that color right there. Just to give it some, just a little information. I'm gonna put my table in. I'm going to add the little flowers up here. I'm just going to be super loose. Draw some lines. Put a little flower over here. Oh, I almost touched the stem. use a heat gun before I attempt to pull my tape off, just to prevent my paper from sticking. And you see I'm using a blue painter tape, but before I laid it down, I put it on my pants and kind of picked up lint from it before I peeled my tape. Here's the finished piece, and here's my inspiration. What I love about Hitchens' work is how he plays with space in his paintings. It often feels like a conversation between color fields and shapes. I do love how his approach really encourages me to loosen up. They almost ask for soft edges, and compared to Hitchens, my piece is simpler, but I also feel like I captured some of that bold, abstract quality. I'll try it again. This was a practice piece, and I just wanted to explore my new watercolors. Next, I want to show you how I use these on my painting. I've added a few things to my painting, the still life from a couple of weeks ago, and I just want to catch you up to date. And I'm also thinking about adding bananas, so let's go to that next. Add bananas. Maybe they're not ripe yet. To the still life I was working on a couple of weeks ago, I let it sit, and I do think this hard line just needs something to break it up. So I'm thinking bananas have such a good organic shape, and I'm trying not to be tight. I'm just trying to be loose, and maybe it's got little spots on it. And that may be too skinny, but maybe he's hiding behind that one. And let's put stems on it. Okay, so now I think I'm finished. I'm finishing up this piece. If you remember from a couple weeks back, I've added the gingham print at the bottom and enlarged some of my flowers. Sorry for the glare. But it's got some great texture. I love this piece. I've got to paint the sides, and I will deliver that this weekend. It's in Starkville, so maybe I'll film while I'm there. Next, I made my way to Starkville, Mississippi. The whole town was buzzing with energy. Everybody was getting ready for the big game this weekend, and I found this local restaurant with an amazing outdoor space and a giant screen where fans could gather and watch football. It was a perfect spot to pull out my sketchbook. I forgot my sunglasses, so there's a lot of squinting going on, but I do love moments like this where I can capture everything in paint and pencil as the world carries on around me. As I walked into Sheffield's Antique Mall in Collierville, Tennessee, I was immediately struck by the scale of this place. 78,000 square feet of treasures waiting to be discovered. The sound of live piano music also floated through the air, giving the whole experience a timeless feel. I wandered aisle after aisle, searching for something that would add character to my still life collection. There were medical supplies that were stored in old tins and little bottles. Not sure what they were used for, but super neat. And there were jugs, and this coffee tin was so unique. And I love this Turkish pot that had such a great shape to it, and I wanted to take it home. I did take a picture of it because I love it so much, but this price, I couldn't do it. I did find a little pitcher that has the red trim on the top that I loved, and I found some apples that won't rot. Okay, I'm back home, and there are my apples and my little vase I picked up and I put on my still life table. And look at the apples next to that pink. I just picked up these curtains, and I'm looking forward to incorporating that pattern in some of my still lifes. And then I wanted to also show you, this is where I added the oil bar, and it's completely dry. It really, I've been gone 4 days, so that's dry, and this is dry. So that's that. And sometimes with these oil bars, you can use a paintbrush and add a little mineral oil, not oil, spirit, and then dip into it and paint like that. But I like the sketchiness of it, like it's a pencil or something. So that is that. And then here is the sketchbook I took. Let's see. Well, if I can get to it. Okay, here we go. And then that's at the Georgia Blue. And I really didn't have time to finish this one, but this was the cowbell that was overlarged over the fountain. But we started, lunch came, and so I did that. But this is just my sketchbook that I've been working in recently. All right, well, I will see you next week.